Let's talk about putting more money in your pocket without increasing your risk drastically. What am I referring to? I am talking about the age-old covered call option strategy. It is considered one of the most conservative option strategies out there, and I'm going to show you why. And I'm also going to show you why it is one of my favorite option strategies and one of the only strategies I continue to use on a daily basis. So we're going to imagine that you have way more money than what's in my Robinhood account. And actually, we're going to imagine that you have 100 shares of an underlying ETF or stock position. Because in order to sell a covered call option, you actually need to use 100 shares to cover that contract. There is something called a naked call, but it is the complete opposite of a covered call. A naked call is considered to be one of the most speculative and risky option strategies out there, while a covered call is considered one of the most conservative. And that is because you are covered. You have those 100 shares. But let's get right into it and let's talk about how we can put more money in your pocket. So let's go to my favorite ETF on this channel right here, SPY, S&P 500 Spiders ETF. Don't rush to the comments saying I'm using the wrong ETF. I know most people here on YouTube love Vanguard's VOO SP 500 ETF fund. I understand. I've just grown up and most of my trades with this type of ETF has been through Spider. There really isn't much of a difference, maybe a little bit of difference in volume, but that's about it. So don't come tearing me up in the comment section. All we're talking about is making you more money without increasing your risk. So let's say we have 100 shares. All we're going to do on Robinhood is go over to trade options. Up here where it says buy, sell, call, put, we are going to click sell a call. And we have all these different strike prices going all the way up until infinity and all the way down to zero. But what does this mean? With a covered call, we are betting on a ceiling. So if we say $680 with an expiration date of 1 day, we are saying that SPY will not touch $680 at or above the time of closing. So we're saying that it's going to be at $679.99 at the time of the option closing at the end of tomorrow or below. It could go all the way down to zero. But if we do $680 as our ceiling for our covered call, we would make $1.29 per share. Because you have to have 100 shares in order to have an options contract, that would mean $129 in your pocket for just clicking a few buttons. That is it. So let's look at the actual chart. So the one thing I like about Robinhood is it has the max profit, max loss, and even the break-even point. Now the break-even point right here is $681 with 28 cents. But the max profit, what I told you before, is $128 if it stays below $680 per share. So to recap, $679.99 and below. You get $128, $129, whatever it is when you actually make that trade. But what is this down here? Your max loss is unlimited? Slow down. It's not that bad. The reason why it says your max loss is unlimited is not because it could go to zero, because that's a limited loss, whatever amount you put into the option minus your premium. It is calculating the opportunity cost. Because if we have this trade for $680 and tomorrow some great news happens and the S&P 500 shoots up to $700, what does that mean? It does mean that you've gained $1.29 per share, so $129, but admit that you lost on the extra $20 per share of opportunity cost because it went from $680 to $700 and you sold at $680. Because a covered call is saying, I will give you the opportunity, the option to buy at the stated strike price of $680. If an option buyer is out there and the stock is now worth $700, they are going to have a field day. But that is the risk versus reward. Typically, I do about 1% out, 1% out of the money for a 7-day call. I don't really look at different charts. This is just what I find most comfortable. Do not be married to this stock. What do I mean by that? If you were to get called away, do not be upset. Find a stock that you like that has very good fundamentals and trade option contracts that you are comfortable with. If you are worried that, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose this stock, don't trade it. Don't sell a covered call on it, because eventually you most likely will have that call or have that stock called away from you. Do not be married to any of the stocks that you trade covered calls on. But why are covered calls so important? Covered calls give you the ability to have a win-win-win triple threat situation. You get the capital gains of the stock. You get the dividends of the underlying stock if it provides dividends, but you also make premiums, your option premiums, every day, every week, every month, however often you trade those options. That is why it's considered one of the most conservative option strategies out there, because you already have it covered and you're getting the capital gains and you're getting the dividends. But also, that's why it's one of my favorite, because you have 3 different sources of revenue and you're not really doing that much. But one reason why people love covered calls is because it plays right into the Will strategy using covered calls and selling cash secured puts, which we are going to talk about next video. But don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on bell notifications to be notified when that video is uploaded.